Hello and welcome back to the latest episode of B6 and Beyond. We are here today to give our post-match reaction, sadly, to the Sunderland game, which I'm sure we're all really excited to talk about. As you can see, we've got Matt that's joined myself and Cory tonight. Matt, how you doing, mate? You okay?
Yeah, we find ourselves in another situation, mate, where I'm on the pod and we're on another loss. Well, no, actually, not in a loss. It feels like a loss today, but yeah, other than that, mate, all good. But Villa have ruined the weekend again.
Shock. Cory, how are you, pal? You all right?
Yeah, mate, I'm as good as you can be when you watch that sort of thing.
So before we do get into it and start talking about the game, just want to remind everyone that we do have an ongoing giveaway for either match tickets or a shirt of your choice, home, away, third choice, whatever it is. All you need to do to qualify is make sure to hit that subscribe button. We give away every 500 subscribers, so don't miss out. So let's kick it off. First thing we need to speak about, and the pressing one for me, and that is the team selection. I personally think Unai Emery got it wrong. What do you guys think, Matt?
Yeah, mate, I would agree in terms of, I don't know why we didn't start Harvey Elliott. We've been lacking a creative spark at number 10 all season, obviously not scored a goal. He looked okay against Brentford in the Cup midweek, kind of embedded him a little bit in a kind of a lesser fixture, if you like, and then I thought today would be a good time to roll him out, give him his full debut. Why we're starting Emi Buendia in 2025 when the boy was on loan last year for not being good enough for our squad, and now he's back in the starting 11, raises concerns. I think we need to drop Rodgers as well. We need to have that conversation at some point. Obviously, I know he's our star boy, and he was for the first 6 months of last season, but so far this year has been awful, and at some point we need to have a bit of a change around within that attacking three who sit behind Watkins, because at the moment it's just not working.
Where's your head at, Corey?
I completely agree. I think, obviously, when I saw the team, I was shocked more than anything. I think, listen, I was partly shocked and partly not. We know what Emery's like in terms of bringing in new players. He likes to do it the long way rather than getting them straight in. But at the end of the day, when we're in the position we are where we're struggling, nothing's happening, nothing's going right for us, just play the players that were there that have got the quality. As Matt said, Harvey Elliott is a proven Premier League player. He's been playing in the Premier League since he was 16 years old. It's not like he's a new player coming to a new league. It's not like someone like Sancho who's not had the pre-season and stuff like that. He's had a pre-season. He's played for Liverpool a few times this season. He's playing for the best team in the country. And all of a sudden he can't get on the bench at a poor Villa side. Not on the bench, in the starting 11 of a poor Villa. It doesn't make sense. I think we spoke about it previously off sort of podcasts and stuff. Kamara playing alongside McGinn. I don't know why McGinn's playing in the six. Bogart's been brilliant, and when he came on, I thought Bogart was excellent again. He should have been the one playing alongside Kamara for me. I know McGinn obviously brings the creativity out of the two, but it just didn't. I would have rather have seen McGinn play instead of Buendia in that attacking position if you're going to do that. But yeah,
what does Ian Matson have to do to start as well? That baffles me.
Sorry, that yellow card. What's that even for? The yellow card that Matson got in that corner. I know obviously it doesn't have too much of an impact on the game, but from a defensive point of view, I know we didn't have much defence in it, but he can't defend after that. He's on a yellow card for something that didn't happen. But I do agree. I think, listen, Digne's been a great servant for us, and he does the defensive job well. But in a game like that, especially, I know obviously they didn't start with 10 men, but a game where we are probably the favourites in terms of the players on the pitch. I know a lot of Sunderland fans found our last podcast and weren't happy about the way we were talking, but overall, you look at the players we've got, we should be fair. You need players like Matson who are quick, who are going to attack quickly, playing. You don't need Digne who's slow. I mean, there was a few times where Digne was getting caught out of position, and we're having to see Mings come out of position to come and clean up for him, and it's just, I don't know. I really don't know at this point.
It looks like to me as well, he's starting to favour Tyrone Mings over Pau Torres now, which is a massive concern for me, considering that he's meant to be Unai Emery's boy, and he brought him in to be that ball-playing centre-back. What's gone on there?
Looking at how tight we've been in summer in terms of spending because of PSR rules and, just not having the funds that we want to go and spend on the players. And then you look at the starting 11 today, other than Rodgers and... who else? Other than Rodgers,
Watkins.
And but who was a signing under Monchi? Like, of this starting 11, two of them were pass player.
It was Gesson and Rogers, wasn't it? That was it. That was the one. There was two.
They're the only two, and the rest of it are players that they've inherited. But we've spent a lot of money. I know Onana's injured. We've just spoke about Ian Maatsen. We spent 34 million quid on him. If we're so tight with our funds and need to be so frugal on how much we spend, we can't be having 9 of the 11 lads of players that have inherited in the past when they have spent money. Pau Torres being one, has now been replaced by Mings. It looks for indefinite unless Mings messes up. Luca Dean's playing over Maatsen. He comes on for a 20-minute cameo. The rest of them, the rest of the players that they've spent money on just aren't getting into the squad, which does question why they... Mallon just doesn't look like Emery really fancies him that much either. I know he came in January that last year, or start of this year. We've not seen loads of him, but it doesn't always look like the players that Emery signed are the ones that are going to make the impact in our starting 11. Like you say, Ben, if Torres isn't getting into the squad anymore, then that's a concern, because it was meant to be his little golden boy from his past club that he wanted as his number one target.
I genuinely think we could sit here and do a whole pod on the transfer business under Unai Emery, Monchi, the whole team, and particularly, I don't think many of them have worked. And what worries me, which we'll touch on very briefly, if we are to say stick with Unai Emery, let's just talk the worst case scenario here, because it's all up in the air at the moment, whether we keep him, whether we don't. Personally, I'd like to keep Emery because I love Unai Emery. We have got quite an ageing squad, which I touched on this with Cory the other day offline. We've got quite an ageing squad. So that tells me that we have to have some sort of a rebuild or an evolution of the squad, and we have to make some changes. Do you trust that team to get it right with how much they've spent so far and what they've spent the money on? When we've had it, we've bought Ian Maatsen and Onana. When realistically, did we need Onana? I don't agree with it, because we had Tielemans and Kamara. They were always going to be our first two. Surely you go and get someone who's, I don't know, a lower price, lower wages, especially the wages. Onana's on an absolute wedge, isn't he? About 140k a week.
And he was
that was just stupid. Yeah, record signing as well. It's absolutely mental. And we were screaming for a winger as well at that time. That was just after we sold Diaby, weren't it? And we go and replace him with Jadon Philogene. Make it make sense.
Yeah, and just we'll touch more on like transfers and stuff, but the other thing is I read that we're covering 80% of Sancho's wages. And I think Sancho was good today, by the way, but just in terms of business, 80% of Sancho's 350 grand a week could have covered Grealish's wages. Now, I don't know if that was ever an option, but like if we've got that level of money to play with for a winger, 280, 300 grand a week, I feel like we could have probably tried to get Jack back down Villa Park, whether that was ever a conversation and I'm just dreaming and that's what I wanted. But I do feel like with the money, when we do have money available, we seem to not get it right at the moment.
He's only on 250 at United, just for a bit of context. And so we're back. Yeah, it's 250, not 350. Right, it's still shit. It's still a lot, but either way, 200k a week. I genuinely think we would have got Grealish, mate, to be honest with you. I just think because it was left so far to the end of the window where we couldn't sign anyone. Grealish had this offer from Everton, and then he's decided to go to Everton, which is understandable. Right, I think we've digressed a little bit too much on transfers. I think we could probably get together and do an actual episode on transfers, because I would love to sit down and talk with you both about that, because I think we could have a right good natter around that.
Yeah.
So back to the game itself, and I think we need to highlight, before the sending off, we looked shocking again. Didn't create anything, barring the Gesson chant that come from the corner. And he should score. He really should score. It was a poor shot. He's 8 yards out, and he's just hit it either at the right of the goalkeeper. Either side of the goalkeeper, that's a goal.
I think the biggest concern there is, obviously, as you say, that he should be scoring, no doubt about that. But then I understand he was offside, but Watkins completely missing the ball after as well. It's just worrying to think, like, Gesson's basically our second striker. That's what he was signed as. He doesn't know how to put the ball in the back of the net. Watkins then goes and misses that chance as well. I know he's offside, but as you say, we just didn't create anything, and it almost feels like we're going into every game now with the intention of not losing. And it's like, again, we shouldn't be going... All the games this season we've played, that should not be the way we're looking at. All of those games we've played are winnable games. Like, okay, there'll be people who pick up on this and say, well, you've not won any of them. I agree, we've not won any, but they are all winnable games. At the end of the day, from the starting 11 that played and beat PSG 3-2, The only player that's not there now is Marcus Rashford. Every other player that played in that game is playing for Aston Villa still, other than obviously like Tielemans who's injured. But taking it back to that, all these players have started this season at Aston Villa. What has gone wrong since then to now that means we can't put the ball in the back of the net from 8 yards? We don't have any creativity. People like Buendia, who the whole purpose of him is meant to be a creative player, he can't pass the ball forward. Morgan Rogers can't pass it into open space. Watkins is bringing the ball down and he's got no one around him to play it to, or he's just losing the ball, he's weak on the ball. Our best players at the moment, I mean, I was with my mate watching it today, and he said to me, he's like, I think Tyrone Mings had a class game today. I'm like, if you're saying Tyrone Mings has been our best player against a 10-man Sunderland, that means something wrong. Don't get me wrong, I thought Tyrone Mings was good today, but he shouldn't need to be good. We're playing against, and not just Sunderland, no offence to Sunderland, a team that have 10 men, you shouldn't be letting them have as many chances as they did.
I'll go one step further. Tyrone Mings shouldn't even be in the side, if you want my genuine opinion, because Pau Torres was brought to replace Tyrone Mings, and his ability on the ball and us playing front foot football and attacking football, Torres was brought for that exact reason, and the fact that he's not getting in there because we are so poor and we need that defensive solidity that Tyrone Mings brings for us. Yeah,
I mean, the problem is as well, if you look at Pau Torres is what, a year younger than Tyrone Mings? 2 years younger? It's like you say, if he's in to replace him, you've only got another 2 years until Pau Torres needs replacing, basically, in that sense. And the biggest concern is those throw-ins that are coming in, for example, other than Tyrone Mings, no one wins headers. No one was winning it. Sunderland could have had about 4 or 5 if they knew how to score goals today.
I think that's a weakness in Ezri Konsa's game. I don't think he's the greatest in the air.
He's not a physical player. He's good at getting himself in front of the players, but we've seen it from the little sort of, I call them dives, because I think I've said to you a few times about this, Ben. He goes down very easily, and he's lucky really that he does get him called for him. Because there's a few times, I think it was the Frankfurt game we did the live stream and he did it and it didn't get called.
Yeah,
they scored. He does it a lot. He's very weak in terms of on the ball. He's smart in getting in front of people, but he doesn't like any of those physical challenges, which as a centre half worries me.
I think it's clever though. He does use his body well.
It is clever, but you still want your centre half to be thrown. I mean, you look at, I don't know if you two chaps watched the Arsenal Man City game earlier. You've got Saliba and Gabriel, who are both trying to go toe-to-toe with Erling Haaland. They're throwing each other around, and it's a good, solid battle. And then you look at our defence, and you're like, Mings will do that. Konsa won't. Pau Torres won't. Bogard is probably a bit too young to be trying to do that as a centre-half. So where does that sort of physicality go in those games where you need it if you don't have Tyrone? Like I say, if you don't have Tyrone Mings, Torres is unbelievable passer of the ball when he wants to be. It's just a really frustrating. You can go off topic all the time, and it's so frustrating.
Ben, I just want to go back to the game today, and you said like up until the red card we were poor. I'd say after the red card we were equally as poor, not to be able to break down 10 men. And again, no disrespect to Sunderland, they've been great since they've come up, but a newly promoted team that actually came up via the playoffs. So it's not like they ran away with the championship. They came up in the last minute of the playoffs, and when they went down to 10 men, it's not like we opened them up. It took a Matty Cash 25-yard hit and hope to an extent, and a goalkeeping error, because the way the ball moved to score our first goal of the season, we've not played our way through and like ticky-tacky and we've scored a nice goal. We've needed a Matty Cash thunder to open the goal scoring account for the season after 5 games. It's awful. And then Watkins should have obviously buried that one at the end when Sancho put it on a plate for him, which is again concerning that Watkins can't connect to a header from about a yard out. But other than those 2 chances, we created nothing.
I'll tell you what really epitomises for me the kind of mentality and how soft Villa are is the equaliser that we actually conceded, because defensively that is one of the worst goals I've ever seen us concede, and I don't even want to blow it up and make it sound a lot worse than what it is. First of all, you've got Xhaka on the edge of the box, completely on his own. I think it was about 10 Villa players in the photo. You've got Xhaka and then Isidore. The only place that he could get that to is Isidore. First problem, Ollie Watkins literally makes an effort to go towards the ball and then stops and doesn't even challenge him. Why is Ollie Watkins not challenging him? He needs royal roasting for that. And then second point for me is why is Konsa and Cash not picking up on the danger, sniffing out the danger? You can clearly see Chaka's going to win the header. You've got Isidore right by you, the only person that you can go to. Cash isn't tucking in. Konsa's not going over. Just looking at each other like, who's going to do what? Who's going to do what? We concede. Like, it's just absolutely painful. It is painful to watch.
I think the worst part about that goal as well is because Xhaka had no one around him. If you actually watch the replay, whilst the ball's in the air, he looks to see where the players are. So it gives him chance to look and be like, oh, right, that's the ball I can play. Looks back up at the ball. There we go. Done.
It was in the air 3 seconds, weren't it?
Yeah.
I counted 3 seconds. It was in the air. So the players have literally had that long. Honestly.
I mean, I've seen people trying to blame Tyrone Mings saying, why is he so far back? Fair enough, like he's not come out quick enough. But at the same time, as you said, there's 9 Villa players in that picture and 2 Sunderland players. 2 to 9. We could have had 5 of those players up the other half of the pitch and still should be outnumbering them. And we've just let Xhaka, who is an unbelievable footballer, by the way. I mean, I don't think he was that great today, although the commentator on the game I was watching seemed to love him today, but I didn't think he did too much. But you don't give a player of that quality the time to pick out a pass. And fair enough, it's a decent finish by Isidore as well. But
I just think this is the problem with Aston Villa at the moment, and please tell me if I'm wrong, but it just feels like we're too easy to play against. Like, we roll over and have our bellies tickled. We've got no spine. I would go as far as saying they are absolutely spineless. There's no one in there that's got a bit of fight. It's painful viewing.
Well, on comms earlier, Chris Sutton was going in on Rodgers, just saying like he'd had an awful 60 minutes and was just saying like he doesn't. Chris Sutton, I don't know if Rodgers has said something about Chris Sutton in the past, but Chris Sutton had something for Morgan Rodgers today. But it was also just a football fan watching another footballer and going like he's having a terrible game, and he was going in on him saying like he looked lazy, he looked like he couldn't be bothered, and maybe he isn't bothered, maybe his head's been turned in summer, but since January really, Rodgers hasn't had a decent game in a Villa shirt, but a good game in an England shirt 2 weeks ago. But he was pony today, and going back to being spineless, Ben, he just looked like he didn't give a monkeys today.
the thing is you touch on that, Matt. Me and Ben did a podcast a couple of weeks ago, and we spoke about that and said, if Morgan Rodgers would have gone to that England camp and been terrible for the England team as well, you could turn around and say, listen, it's down to form, his confidence is gone, he's struggling, that's what it is. Yeah. But to go to the England camp and come out of it as the best player in that camp, not just, he had a half decent, the best player in that game, the one that everyone's coming away raving about, going on Instagram, putting all these things about don't doubt Villa, this, that and the other, like don't count us out, and then doing that. When we talk about spineless, we're talking about Morgan Rodgers last year would pick up the ball on the edge of our box, sprint 80 metres to the edge of the other box, find a pass. This year, he can't even control the ball. And I said this a couple of weeks ago when Villa fans are he's playing out of position, it's not his fault. It's got nothing. He's averaging losing the ball 17.6 times per night. 17 times in a game he's losing the ball. Do you know how ridiculous that is? I could go and play a Premier League game right now and I wouldn't lose the ball that many times. And I'm not saying I'm anything special, but that is terrible.
He's one of the worst in the country for it, isn't he, statistically?
The thing is, I wouldn't mind if it was... Last year, the reason he was losing the ball was because he was trying things. He was trying to run through people, and that's fair enough. If that's how you're losing the ball, I don't care. I mean, you look at someone like Jeremy Dockey, for example, one of the best dribblers in the league, unbelievable to watch. He loses the ball tons of times because he's trying something. This season, Rodgers is losing the ball because he can't pass it, he can't control it.
You can't trap a bag of cement, can he?
It's terrible. Genuinely, it's...
Do you know what's worrying for me? And me and Matt spoke about this just briefly off air. Sancho come on in the 82nd minute, and Sancho did more in his little cameo that he was on than Morgan Rodgers did in the whole game.
My mate, when I was at the game, he said to me, he goes, Cory, who do you think's been the best player today? And I said, probably Jadon Sancho, and he's been on for 8 minutes. 8 minutes, and I think you touched on it, Matt, with the Matty Cash shot. I said, the keeper has made an absolute howler. Why are we not taking more shots? Just have a go. It's already in his head that he's missed one. The only player who had another shot from outside the area... Matty Cash, again. It wasn't as good as the first one, but just have a go. It's...
I thought Harvey Elliott had found the net, he shot on.
Yeah, that was a good effort.
I thought I'd gone in as well. And how did Watkins genuinely miss that one in the 90th minute? Like, it was a great delivery from Sancho, to be fair. on a plate, and I just you're number 9. You're an England international, and you've genuinely missed the ball from a yard away, which would have been a huge win and 3 points for us in the last minute, and a confidence boost going into Bologna on Thursday. And again,
It's the thing with Watkins, though, isn't it? He seems to need about 7 chances before he scores. It's fucking.
He does, yeah. I mean, he seems to be needing more at the moment this season, but it is concerning. And you look at round the rest of the pitch, going, where are the goals or the creativity going to come from if Rodgers isn't firing on all cylinders and Watkins is missing ones from 2 yards out? We're relying on 2 goals this season. Harvey Elliott, which came from a mistake from Brentford's back 4, and it wasn't even a great shot from Harvey Elliott in that game. The keeper should have saved it. And then again, another keeper mistake from Matty Cash at right back. There are 2 goals.
I think for me, they have to start Harvey Elliott and Sancho going forward. If Sancho is not fit enough to do full 90, I would rather him start the first half, give us 45 minutes, and then come off. You know, I would rather start the game on the front foot. This is just my view on it anyway. Harvey Elliott, and if you're going to play Rodgers, put Rodgers as the left attacking midfielder, or put Rodgers on the right, like where he played last season. I think he would still on the right. I still think he would do a better job than playing someone like a Buendia. And in all fairness, I'll give him a bit of credit. I thought Evan Gesson wasn't that bad today. I thought he had a decent game.
I thought he should have scored that 1 goal Cory touched on, but I think overall his game was decent. He was tracking back really well actually in the first 25 minutes as well, and he looked more like a footballer and a Premier League player than what we've seen so far in a Villa shirt.
I messaged Ben during the game actually because Ben messaged me saying about how good his defensive work rate is, and we've spoke about this a couple of times. How good is it? I genuinely think I could see him being like our Joelinton in terms of we signed him as a forward. He's not a forward. Even today, you could see when he's going forward, he just doesn't seem to have that knack in him. But his tackling ability and his actual physicality is phenomenal. I mean, some of the tackles he was putting in today were ridiculous. Like, he's coming from behind people, proper sort of like Wan-Bissaka-esque tackles, the way he's wrapping his foot round people. But again, fair play to him for that, but that's not why we've signed him. And that's something that Emery and the team need to look at and say, he's done well in that regard, but where's the player that we bought who's scoring goals in the French league, making things happen?
Well, I read that one of the reasons that they did sign him was due to his defensive qualities and his pressing ability, which sounds mental. But Emery does like a forward that presses from the front, doesn't he? And that's another thing that Watkins hasn't done this season. He's not pressing the same. He's not holding the ball up. His link play is completely non-existent. I don't know what's happened to him. He's gone from Ollie Watkins that scored that equaliser against the winner, against the Netherlands to send us through, a world-class striker, rightfully so, to, I would say at the moment, a League One striker.
I personally think, and this is just my thought on it, I think that we spoke about sort of the fallout at Villa at the moment, and I think that is the case. I think him and Emery have just, they don't want to speak to each other, they don't want to know each other, that sort of thing. Because, I mean, we look at it, he replaced him with Duran at the start of the season, he replaced him with Rashford in key games last year. This season, he's basically been kept hold of because we can't get anybody else in. That's the reason he's still there, and Watkins is probably thinking to himself, why am I here though? Like he loves Villa. You can tell he loves Villa, and it wouldn't be anything of him wanting to go from Villa. But I just think him and Emery they've fallen out.
I was chatting to someone down the Villa was it the Newcastle game, and this guy told me that for what he's and again, take this with a pinch of salt, could be wrong, but just it doesn't sound like it's wrong to me. He said apparently that Ollie Watkins always brings up the PSG game. Even to this day, he still brings it up, the fact that he didn't play that many minutes against PSG, and he's still very salty about it.
Well, I mean,
I can understand it to a degree.
Yeah, Cory, I mean, it would be if you're a striker, you want to start every game. Obviously, you want the opportunity to score goals. You see strikers get taken off when they're on a brace and they want their hat trick and they throw their toys out their pram because they want to score goals. Watkins starting in what would have been our biggest game in 40 years, basically the quarter-final against PSG, and you're getting replaced by a loanee would annoy you. But to hold that kind of grudge and continue it into the new season potentially, and that's maybe why you're not performing to the levels that we've seen is concerning.
There has to be a bit of professionalism for me. At the end of the day, get on with it. I would also argue Emery made the right decision because Marcus Rashford was arguably our best player that game. And if he didn't sub Marcus Rashford off for Ollie Watkins, we probably would have went on to win that game. So,
yeah, I think one of the key things is I think in that moment, Watkins was probably told last year. Because I think there was rumours, I don't know how true they were, but there was rumours that if we got Champions League football, Marcus Rashford was going to join Villa permanently. That's what he basically told his camp and his brother and stuff like that if we got Champions League, he'd join us and stay in England. And I think that was probably something that was playing on Watkins. Watkins was probably told by Emery, listen, if we get Champions League, you're not here next year. Like, end of. Marcus Rashford's coming in, you're gone. And because we didn't, I think that's where that sort of fallout's happened. And I do agree, I think in that moment, the PSG, obviously he's going to want to play. He's our top goal scorer in Premier League history, that sort of thing. But at the same time, Rashford was the man on form at that time, and he's got a good history against PSG as well.
So what you've just said there really brings me on to the next point I wanted to discuss quite well. So what you've just said there about the conversation that potentially could have happened between Emery and Watkins, again, this is all speculation. Yeah. None of us have any insight to what goes on at Aston Villa. But if that conversation has happened, how can that dressing room be remotely healthy? It can't. So you've got Ollie Watkins, who's potentially got a bit of a grudge towards Emery. You've got Emi Martinez. Clearly, he was told that he needed to be sold, and he could go if he finds himself a club. And now he's got all that stuff going on. You got obviously the rift around the Jacob Ramsey situation as well. It just screams to me that dressing room, there's something not right in there. You got the Morgan Rogers piece, whether that's right. Can Unai Emery turn a corner and bring the team back on board? Because I've got serious reservations around that.
I think at the moment he's treading on eggshells. I think today especially, fair play. He's come out and he's called the players lazy. They deserve that. That I can back Emery to the hills with that. That was a fair thing to say. They've been lazy. They haven't. The one thing I don't agree with, and this is what's made me worry, is the Harvey Elliott comments. For him to go in on someone like Harvey Elliott and say, he was trying to play the ball over the top when the options weren't on, this sort of thing. He's not playing the way that we play. We've always played that way. We've always played with the ball in behind for Watkins to press. I don't know what he's on. This year we've obviously tried something different, but at least Elliott's trying stuff. Don't get me wrong, I don't think Elliott was amazing today. I think he had a bit of a rough game when he came on, but at least he's trying to get that ball forward. And to call him out as well, of all people, someone who is just joined on loan. He's a young lad. Like, I know I said about how much experience he's got, but it just wasn't. It wasn't Unai Emery like.
I don't know. I don't know to a certain degree, because I've just knocked my earphone up. To a certain degree, because he called Morgan Rogers out when he first joined the club. So I agree and I don't, because I remember when he absolutely hammered Morgan Rogers and he was telling Morgan Rogers he's still a championship player, and it kind of drove Morgan Rogers to that next level, didn't it? So I don't know if that's just Unai Emery being a bit tactical.
Agree, but with that, I feel like that was more a case of Rogers said it himself. That was more a thing of he wanted to keep Rogers grounded. Just because you've moved up to the Premier League doesn't mean you're this sort of player. So it drove him to obviously perform better, whereas I don't think he ever really called Rogers out for his performances as such. It was always sort of behind closed doors where he'd tell him he's a championship. Whereas for him to do that publicly, we know with Emery, it's not like him to call players out. It's not like him to blame the players. It's always, he takes it on the chin and says, listen, I've made the mistakes, I've done this, we got it wrong, the players did what they did, this, that and the other. And today, as I say, the lazy comments I can completely agree with. I think I said to you on the phone, Ben, before the game, I said, we'll be able to tell what the game's going to be like in the first 10 minutes. If in the first 10 minutes we don't start quick, we know we're going to be in the exact same position. And I could have told you today after the first 10 minutes we weren't winning that game. And
could have told you as soon as I saw the team announcement.
Yeah. It's just become that predictable, and I think it's an interesting one. Matt, I don't know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, but I was going to go back to Ben. You said it feels like he's lost the dressing room at the moment. With maybe not playing Watkins back in the last year, Rogers maybe wanting to leave, Martinez obviously pushing for a move on deadline day. Emery went down the tunnel about a minute before the full-time whistle went, which I've never seen him do before, and it looked like he was properly fuming and very out of character from Emery. If he has lost the dressing room, and I can't believe we're maybe having this conversation, I am always going to be pro Emery in because of the 3 years he's given us so far. My worry is if the hierarchy's pulled the trigger, who is out there as a top manager at the moment? I would rather ride this wave and just hopefully come out the back end of it. But what worries me at the moment is there doesn't look like there's any progress. Like we're not creating anything. We're not scoring any goals. The players don't look bothered. None of the performances are picking up from the big boys like Rodgers and Watkins. And I'm like, something has to change. And naturally, as a football club, the thing that they will change easiest and quickest is the manager. But I really, really, really don't want that to be the case with us. But I'm worried that if this continues for, where are we? Nearly end of September. If we're in this position start of November in another 5-6 weeks, then it was back end of October that Gerrard got sacked and we got Emery in 3 years ago. It could be the same time frame, which is actually also the worst. We've started exactly the same as we did this season, the year Gerrard got sacked as well, in terms of games and points.
The thing is, there has to be a bit of context around it as well. We've had worse runs under Unai Emery in terms of just fixtures alone, where we've lost a certain amount of games or not picked up wins in a certain amount of games. We've had worse runs than this. I think it's highly amplified at the moment because it is the start of the season.
Yeah.
And ultimately, with the summer of uncertainty, not knowing where the squad was, I just feel like everything is massively amplified, and I think sometimes we just potentially need to take a little bit of a step back and just assess what the bigger picture looks like. It's not doom and gloom at this moment. Yes, it well could be. I think personally, if we aren't in a position, not this international break, the next one, where it's just like, if we lose the next two games, there will be questions asked 100% because of who they are. We're playing, Burnley and Fulham at home. We should be beating both of them realistically. But it's not the end of the world at the moment. Look, I don't really like to mention them on this podcast, but Newcastle, for example, they're only 3 points ahead of us, and they bang on. Look, they've had a miraculous start to the season. They really haven't. We are, I think it's 6 or 7 points off fourth. The league is very tight at the moment. All it's going to take is a few wins on the board, and it looks completely different. I think the only thing that worries me is after these two fixtures, our fixtures do get a little bit more tricky. But ultimately, if there is any manager that can turn the ship and get us back on track, it's Unai Emery. That's my opinion.
I completely agree. I think playing devil's advocate slightly, I think obviously the poor runs we've had Europe involved in those before. Now, obviously, we have got Europe, but this is before Europe's come into play. And I think that's going to be the key, because we're in a position now where it's like, because of how poor we started the season, do you then just say, do you know what, let's go balls deep into Europe and just try and do whatever we can in Europe? And then all of a sudden you have the questions of, well, how can we turn over Bologna and Feyenoord, but we can't turn over 10-man Sunderland, for example? I think the next 4 games, because the next 2 games in the league are Fulham and Burnley, but we've also got Bologna and Feyenoord either side of that. Those 4 games now are what's going to tell us where we are and what the plan is. And I think after those 4 games, as you say, not to be negative, but that's where we'll know where Unai Emery stands.
So basically, we're going to win all 4 games, and we're all going to be happy as Larry when we're in Feyenoord.
Well, hopefully, yeah.
Oh dear, I love having these chats, lads, because it is a bit doom and gloom, isn't it?
I think it's just funny because, like, okay, me growing up personally, I'm used to this sort of thing. I've known us to be. I had the decent spell in 08, 09 when I was about 7 years old of Ashley Young and stuff, and then after that, I've just known us to be bottom half of the Championship, Premier League, and then Championship football, and now I'm sort of had those nice tastes of Champions League nights and stuff like that. But I think, like you say, as Villa fans, we are reactionary. I think everyone's sort of getting to what it's just concerning how quickly it's changed. But again, as it says, as football goes, it can change back like that. Like you say, in 4 games' time after we've played fine, we could have beat Feyenoord, beat Bologna, beat Fulham, beat Burnley, and all of a sudden Watkins has got 6 goals in those 4 games, and Rodgers is back getting assists, and you never know what can happen. It's football. But
well, you just touched on it as well, Ben. The Premier League table at the moment, Man City are, I think, on 7 points at the moment. So they're not flying either. And if we win our next game and Man City didn't, we'd be a point behind them. So the table is very bunched at the moment, apart from Liverpool, who are running away with it, really, 5 points clear. But it only takes, like you've just said as well, Corey, a win against Fulham, a win against Burnley, a result against Bologna, and everything's looking rosy again. It is the fact that it is the start of the season, and the table says 1 goal scored, 3 points on the board, relegation zone. It doesn't look great, but that is because of the start of the season. If it was 12 games into the season, we were having this run, it might be a little bit different, the reaction from the fans.
And if you look at it as well, take into some of the fixtures that we have had. Yes, Brentford away, we should be looking to beat Brentford, but Brentford then went and drew to Chelsea, so they're not going to be as poor as what I think a lot of people thought they would be. Everton away, we drew there, got a clean sheet at the new Hill Dickinson Stadium. Not a bad result at all. First game of the season against Newcastle, we went down to 10 men. I still stand by what I think, and I think we would have beat them if we would have kept 11 men on the field. But again, in context, that draw was a good result. The Palace one at home, that stung. That was really, really poor. That was one of the lowest lows of the season, in my opinion. So, we should be beating Palace at home. I don't care what anyone says. I know that but again, you can take it into a little bit of context. Palace are on a 16-game unbeaten run. 17 now. So they're not a bad side.
And they've got our number. Right,
exactly.
That's a bogey team for us, and they always beat us. So
Sunderland away today was always going to be tricky just because of how the season started and how we're playing. But ultimately, when they go down to 10 men for over an hour, you got to put them away. There's no excuses for it. And the way we conceded, the goal we conceded, this is a poor result. So I would say out of all the results that we've got so far, the Brentford one, the Palace one, just because of the manner of it, and then today are the poor results. I think the Everton one isn't a bad result in hindsight, and I don't think the Newcastle one is a bad result in hindsight.
No, again, like you say, that in hindsight, and if you scattered these 5 results across 15 fixtures, and you handpicked them, not the worst point at Everton, like you said, clean sheet against Newcastle. So the fact that it is the first 5 games of the season, and the table does read 3 points, but like you just said, Corey, football changes very quickly, and we've got, luckily, I think it is luckily that we've got a game on Thursday to try and rectify this again sooner rather than later, and go again and maybe get a positive result to bring a bit of confidence into the weekend and try and get a result against Burnley at Villa Park, which that is an absolute must-win. We can't be allowing a newly promoted team to come to Villa Park and slap us about.
So how many points do we get from our next 5 Premier League games? I'll name them. So we've got Fulham at home, Burnley at home, Spurs away, Man City at home, Liverpool away.
I think, realistically, was Man City at Villa Park, mate?
Villa Park, yeah.
We've done them the last 2 years at Villa Park. 1-0 and 2-1. Do I think that's going to happen this time around? No, but I did just say Man City aren't playing great football, and they let a goal in last minute today. Yes, it was at Arsenal, but I think realistically, this is what I think should happen. We beat Fulham, Burnley, get a point or a win against City, lose to Liverpool, and Spurs are playing well this year. Do I think that will happen? Not right now. No, if we carry on playing the way we do, then I think Fulham looked good against Brentford yesterday. Maybe win against Burnley, draw against Fulham, lose the other 3 based on current form.
And if that's the case, that gives us what you said: win and draw. Didn't you say 4 points out of 15? That'll then take us to 7 points. 7 points after 10 games. Is that how many?
Yes,
is that right?
7 out of 30, which is relegation.
Sackable territory.
Yeah, that is.
Go on, Corey. I can see you got something on your mind.
The thing is there's so many different roads of looking at those 5 fixtures. There's looking at it from the road of the way we're playing at the moment. I could genuinely see us getting 0 points, but at the same time, you'd like to think at some point something's going to click. If it clicks in the first game against Fulham, is it Fulham first or Burnley first?
It's Fulham.
So if it clicks in that game and we beat Fulham, I genuinely could see us beating Fulham, beating Burnley, drawing at Spurs, draw against City, and get battered by Liverpool. That's what I mean about the switch. It is that thing of I could see us getting absolutely no points, and I can also see us. I think. Do you know what? I think the two crucial games in that period are the ones that aren't in the Premier League. I think the Bologna and final games are the crucial ones. If we can get some confidence, like Matt said, the fact we've got to play on Thursday straight away is it gives us no time. Then it's like, right, you've got to turn up. We beat Bologna,
games, isn't it? If realistically, the standard of the opposition isn't fantastic. Bologna ain't amazing. Fulham are decent, but again, at Villa Park, you should be beating them. Burnley, you have to beat them. And then as for Feyenoord in a bad side, but we should be beating Feyenoord. Away from home, it's difficult, but if you're going to get 4 wins out of 4 in those fixtures, that would give you massive confidence. And then what would annoy me then is when we have to have a stupid international break, which kind of breaks you up. So it's like, yeah, sound, we've just got this forward momentum going, and then bang, you have to stop it for an international break. Rodgers goes off to England. The England boys are back in his ear. Oh, come to Liverpool, come to Chelsea. Comes back to Villa, and he goes shit again. So I'm just predicting that now.
Well, we should have. Tielemans should be back for next weekend, shouldn't he?
I hope so.
How long's
Onana should be back. I think Onana was potentially meant to be back for today, so he should be back for Bologna, hopefully.
Well, is his glass legs repaired?
I read today that today was his 20th match that he's missed through injury since being at Villa, which, considering we've only had a year and 2 months, it's not great.
It's shocking, to be honest with you. I think he's close to going into territory of one of the worst signings in our history, which sounds bad, but realistically, what's he done? He had the decent start for us. He played like prime Yaya Toure for 1 game away at Bournemouth, but apart from that, he's done absolutely nothing.
Decent cameo against Newcastle last season at home. I really want him to work as well. I really like him, and there's a profile of a footballer that should be class for us. He's strong. He's got a good shot on him. 6'5", CDM, and that game against Bournemouth, like you just touched on, many, he was class, but for 50 million quid, we're just not seeing it. We digress anyway.
Well, he should dominate games in the midfield, shouldn't he? But he don't. He's not imposing, is he?
No, he doesn't have that presence, and for someone so big, and for £50 million going back to, like we said, we can talk about transfers until next week, but if we've only got £50 million and we wasted 50 million quid on a CDM when we've got 2 better people already in his position, it's question marks.
So to summarise, not good enough today, but in hindsight, it could be a worse start to the campaign than what we have done. It isn't great, but if anyone's going to fix it, I think it'll be Unai Emery. I hope. Have you guys got anything else you want to go over?
Not today, mate. No, I think I'm still pretty flat from the result. I'll see you boys down Villa Park on Thursday.
Right, on that note, thank you all for tuning in. Don't forget to leave a like on the video if you haven't already. We have a goal of 20 likes of the video. And last one from us all, up the Villa.
Up the Villa.
Up the Villa.